Evening, everyone. This is Nigi Adewale, host of the Ekabo Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group, and I'm excited to be joining you here on this Wednesday, middle of September. I'm going to kick this one off with something a little bit different. It's going to be a conversation around gratitude and faith. I'm just so thankful to the man above and to God for the blessings that He's been raining down upon me and my family. And, at some point I'll share kind of what happened today. Now's not the time, but man, just all smiles, many blessings, favor that you can't even, just things you wouldn't even ask for are happening. And it's pretty incredible. So just a huge thank you to the man above and more prayers going up. Shifting gears, this is going to be an open session for the Ekabo Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group. And so I'm all ears, would love to hear what you're working on. I know the last 2 weeks we've had guests on to kind of talk about different items. We're going to have more guests coming later this month as well. But I wanted to connect with you. It's been a while to see kind of what you got going on. So if you got any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat and or to join live. We're taking it back to the open session. We haven't done that in a while, so feel free. While we wait, I can actually give you an update on the project that we got going up in Snellville, right? So a lot of people on here know that I bought that fourplex in Snellville it was late July. And we've been working to renovate a couple of the units. And one of the units is almost fully furnished. I got like the last couple items, like some wallpaper and other things that are arriving this week. And that's going to be done by the end of the weekend. And then the second unit is off and running too. We have our guys working on it. They say they can finish it in about 3 weeks' time. And so we'll have 2 of the 4 units renovated, listed, rented. And I'm super excited for that because this has been just a cool project all along to see a value add potential and then to actually see one of the units done and how it looks like now. It's night and day. And so in this market, I'm looking more and more for those type of opportunities, both for myself as well as for clients. But what do you got? Any questions? Anybody want to join in the live call in? And again, this is going to be an open session, so please feel free to drop questions in the chat and or to join in through the live call in. AJ, it has been a while. Welcome back, man.
What's going on, my man? How you doing?
I am super good. Feeling blessed, super good, and I'm trying to get this fourplex up and running, man.
For sure. I'm always trying to keep up to date on, your journey with that. I know that's been an exciting project for you. You've been working on that for some few months now. When did you start on that project, actually?
So we're supposed to close in it early July, right, to try and do that whole 2 month thing, but didn't close till July 28th. And so, yeah, we've been working on it for a while. We got the first unit finished, at least for a renovation standpoint, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And now we're furnishing it, and that's going to be ready to rock here by the end of this weekend. And then we have the second unit, which kicked off. The second unit kicked off like yesterday. They actually did the demo and pulled everything out, and the guys are now starting to put the new cabinets in and all this stuff. These guys are moving actually really quick because it's a copy and paste. They're doing exactly what they did before. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah, that's a pretty quick turnaround. I'd say if you closed on it and you say end of July.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's a little over like a month. I mean, that's pretty impressive, especially for a fourplex. So
come on now. It's fun, and it's only 2 of the units that are getting renovated, not all of them, right? So, we're trying to move quickly on those. And then I'm actually working on, because this is pulling me back into the long-term rental piece. I haven't actually managed actively long-term rentals in a couple of years, but now I'm getting all the systems back in place. And one of the things I'm actually working on now is renewal notices, right? So when's the last time you actually rented a spot? It's been a while since you rented a spot.
man, I've never been in the long term rental game, but I've done medium term rentals. So the last time I've done a midterm rental was probably about a year ago.
Okay. Okay. So to that point, midterm rentals a little different. But with long-term rentals, if you were like renting an apartment, typically they'd send you a renewal notice, like 60 days before. I try to time it for 90 days before, and I send 2 options all the time. Right. One option is for a shorter term. For these guys, their leases are up in December and January, which is a terrible time to try to release, right? Because everybody's probably already got their lease booked up. And so the option I gave them is for a higher charge if they want to go for 1 year, which will put us back into the winter, or a lower charge if they want to go for a year and a half or 18 months, which will end it In the summer, we're going to have a lot more people looking. So I like doing those. And then once we get it on the summer term, I usually try to go for 24 months or 12 months. 24
Hmm.
months will be a nominal increase, like barely anything,
Hmm.
because the biggest cost you're going to have is turnover. That's your largest cost. Because when you turn over, now the new person is going to be like, hey, why is this door squeak? Okay, I need to send somebody to go fix that.
All
And you
right.
got to renovate the unit, all that stuff. So trying to avoid that.
Right, and I think I misunderstood your question. So you were asking from the perspective of me being a renter, not renting out my unit. So
Yes.
the last time I was a renter, I want to say, wow, it was crazy sitting back and trying to think the last time I was paying somebody else's mortgage, but probably 2 years ago. And at the time, we did, I believe, a 15-month lease. And I actually prefer that as a renter, because as you said, usually when you get the which is not so typical, longer than just a 12-month lease, it's actually a bit lower. So it helps, my pockets just a bit on a monthly basis, in perspective from a renter. And then also, just adding, a few more months, whether it's like 15 months or 18 months, usually, if somebody's renting a place, they don't want to be moving around often. So I know when I was in that space, an extra 3 months that didn't really matter to me. And on top of that, I was able to save a few bucks by going on like a slightly longer lease term. So I definitely understand that. Makes sense.
Absolutely. It helps both parties. And from a landlord perspective, it gives you that consistency and you know, hey, I don't have to touch this unit really for X amount of time and I can kind of recuperate.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's what's up, man. Myself, I've been like balls to the wall, just extremely busy. It's so crazy because like my weekends are even like extremely busy now, just trying to manage these two different units. It was crazy just going from my primary residence to now managing two Airbnbs. So I think that's kind of crazy how it works, but that's the power of house hacking. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm currently in a house hack right now. I live in a single family home, but the interesting piece is that has a fully finished basement. So my wife and I, we've been tapping into that. We have it fully furnished and we listed on Airbnb probably about 6 weeks after we closed on the property. We've been making really good progress. We've already had three renters from Airbnb stay down there. And I think that's, usually due to when you're a new host on Airbnb, they kind of boost your listing for the first three rentals. And then after that kind of slows up a bit. The other unit was my primary residence at the time. We just did a conventional 3%, lived in that for a year. And then after that, just pretty much turned it into a full fledged Airbnb. That one has been pretty solid so far. And I think mainly because that's quite like a bigger space. It's a 3 bedroom home, 3 bed, 2 bath. But one of them we kind of converted into an office space because it's, a little bit smaller than what a typical bedroom size would be. So with that, I kind of like that because we can kind of tap into like, a lot of digital nomads, people who work from home, things of that nature, and they can have like a dedicated office space. So yeah, that's been picking up. We've just been trying to find creative ways to mix in the short term versus also the midterm runner market. And I really like that. I'm really right now we've been trying to vet and procure like a midterm tenant because, I think it's just a good mix between the two, a long term and a short term. The short term is obviously a little bit more volatile, and then the long term renter, there's a lot of different things that come with that, tenant rights, potentially, like damaging property, having to come in after 12, 16, or 18 months, however you structure the lease. So that's why I like a midterm renter. And we've just been trying to, just find ways to market our properties, get it out there, be flexible as possible, especially with this changing economy and, the housing market, doing all sorts of things. But we just trying to be, flexible, adaptive, and just continue to push ourselves. And we're in it. So we got two mortgages, not going anywhere. So we're in it, and we're confident. We're just gonna try to make it work.
I got a comment and then a question. First off, that's incredible, right? To go from, hey, we're just living in a house to flipping it into two units. That's
Hmm.
major growth, right? And it allows you to kind of get your feet wet in this full short term rental, right? Like as a whole, two separate units, renting it out, kind of build that value and start to get those reviews coming in. And I'm happy to hear that Full House is doing well. And it's interesting what you did there. And this is where the question comes in, converting one of the bedrooms into an office and really making it a 2 bed, 3 bath. I know that when you look at midterm rentals, we had a couple inquiries this past week. The two bed, two bath, or I've never really seen a two bed, three bath. These are huge. Like people, if the price is right, people love these type of units. And I know that you have family members, right, that are in that nursing field. And so I guess my question is, and this is kind of going to come out of left field, COVID, right? From what I hear, is starting to come back a little bit. Are you seeing a pickup from a nursing perspective or healthcare? Has that started to be talked about more, like bringing in more travel nurses, things of that nature? Or have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, for sure. So for everybody who doesn't know, I know Nee, you know, but my wife, she actually is a nurse and she's done travel nursing for the past year. So we definitely have a good perspective on, what nurses are like looking for when they're traveling and things of that nature. Since there has been this kind of up spike in COVID, I've been kind of taking a look on Furnish Finder. That's where I list our property for midterm renters. And I've actually been seeing, a good amount of demand, requests coming in from, nurses and, things of that nature. People coming in trying to find, 3 month stays. And so to answer your question, yes, we actually have been seeing an uptick. It has been a bit slow prior to that, but now is kind of that season where it's getting into fall and winter, and those are kind of the time frames where a lot of the nurses are traveling. It was kind of tough because we jumped into having this other home that we just bought, the house hack, and listing the other house, the primary residence at the time where, it was just summertime, and a lot of nurses, they really aren't traveling at that time. But now, because of, just the nature of being in the fall and wintertime, things of that nature, we've just been kind of keeping our eye open, and we're very hopeful that we can, potentially find a midterm renter just due to that kind of dynamic.
Nice, nice. And shifting gears, Ava T, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Super good.
I had to find the unmute button. How's it
I
going?
figured it is going super good. Just taking it one day at a time,
Yeah.
and to try to expand.
Yeah, and
What about you?
you still have your four properties, is that right? Your for your short term?
In total, short-term rental properties owned is five, soon to be six. Once we get that next
Okay.
unit updated.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so I just had one quick question. It's about the okay, so you have more control on other platforms versus booking.com, right? And so I prefer to rent out to people who are like 25 years or older. But I got a booking for the first time on booking.com, and this particular person is 18 years old. I just got their, they already booked. I got their identification a week later, of course. And then I was like, okay, well, you're just 18. So I'm kind of thinking, what do I do, or what should I do? Should I accept this booking, or what? And I am kind of like really, she's my only booking in October, so I really do need the booking.
So before I answer this, I want to kick it to Kanayo, AJ. Do you guys have any experience with Booking.com?
I actually do. Kanaya, did you want to take this one, or
He
looks
said,
like I
he
think he's
said,
muted.
no, you're still muted, but he said,
Like I said, we just listed both of our homes, my house hack, and then also my other former primary residence, now just a full-fledged short-term rental slash midterm rental. They're both on booking.com. I believe we have a couple booking.com bookings in the future at the end of September, and then also one or two in like October. But I do know. So, are you? Let me get this straight. Are you uncomfortable with renting the home out to someone that's 18? Is that?
Well, I think you probably know all the different reasons why,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, typically like I rent on Verbo and Airbnb where you have more protection. But particularly Airbnb, you have, that liability protection. But on booking.com, you have nothing. And then, also it's a four-bedroom house. So, and four-bedroom, three bath, and I just want to kind of, prevent any parties or extra, ruckus going on. But somebody who is 18, I'm just not sure.
Based on that, so what I would say is, obviously younger renters, there's a higher probability, obviously, as we all know, of that kind of stuff going on, parties and things of that nature. I wouldn't necessarily be afraid to accept the booking or just kind of let it go through. You can kind of ask the guest, kind of, hey, like, what's going on.
Yeah.
Usually the guests will kind of state, why they're staying and things of that nature. But another thing that you can do, which I just learned a couple of days ago, is that you can set a minimum age requirement on booking.com.
Oh, good. Okay, I was gonna ask that next.
Yeah. So, and I think that's interesting because a lot of the other short-term rental platforms like Airbnb, Verbo, and whichever other one is out there that's popular right now, I don't believe they allow you to set a minimum age requirement, but booking.com actually does.
Okay, I'll look into that. That would be good. But I guess just like you said, this time I'll just let it, slide because I need the booking, and then I'll probably just kind of emphasize,
Yeah, for
the
sure. I
minimum.
would reiterate, like, your property rules, whatever you have in the details, and just, make sure that they're abiding by that. And then I'm assuming that I would hope you have cameras on the property.
Yeah, yeah,
So
sure.
you can kind of keep an eye on them like that. Obviously, you don't want to be kind of looking at them each and every day, but that's just a way to see kind of what's going on, pop in every now and then. And, it's,
It's funny when I first got a few bookings, I looked at everybody every single day. I was like, oh, they're going to the backyard. Oh, they're walking in the front yard.
yeah, I definitely did the same thing with my first few
Yeah,
Airbnb bookings, but after a while, you kind of just come to, terms with it. And I'm still at that phase, definitely, but I'm starting to just slowly just be okay with it. Have to understand that, that definitely if you want to grow and scale in real estate, I'm just starting to
hmm,
understand you kind of have to just not lose control, but just let go a little bit. Um,
yeah, yeah.
let things play out and just believe that and trust in the process, honestly.
And AJ, are you in Atlanta also or Georgia? Where you're
Yes, I am in the Atlanta Decatur area.
Oh, okay, okay. I was going to ask you specifically where you in Decatur because they seem to have more houses that are made for, where you could do house hacking. Because I haven't seen many houses, in other areas of, around the Atlanta area, except for like Decatur.
Yeah,
Oh,
I would say it's pretty tough in Atlanta specifically. Decatur definitely has a lot of potential just because of the growth that's going on right now. Need was actually the one who helped me find my house hack. So
yeah,
I was fortunate. We didn't actually, do an extremely long search. We came across it, ran the numbers, and pretty much just went with it. So
that's pretty cool. Okay.
Piggybacking off of AJ though, he's spot on with the booking.com and the recommendation. I think
Hmm.
right now, the one thing about booking.com is it's all instant book. Like literally, as soon as they click it, there's no acceptance. It's booked. And so that was one of the things I was nervous about. I'll tell you kind of what we do, which is it takes a while to get to that point. But I think if you can confirm in writing, because you got time before they check in, hey guys, just checking in. Please confirm that you accept and know all the rules, something like that,
Hmm.
and let us know why you're coming in order to receive the check-in instructions. Like, don't send the check-in instructions. Delay those until you can get the responses, so you can force them to kind of say, yeah, we read the rules, we understand, we agree, something of that nature, just
Yeah.
so that you have something in writing on the booking platform so they can hopefully back you up. But
Hmm.
personally, I actually did not go with booking.com until we had the auto host thing in place. And auto host basically allows you to take security deposits and screen tenants even further. And so that was the catalyst. The reason I was looking for something like that is because we wanted to go booking.com, and now we've removed a lot of our restrictions even on Airbnb and VRBO because we have that kind of thing in place.
Now, when you say auto host, what are you talking about? Another app or?
Yeah, and I can show you. So this is what, let me share my screen. So this is what I've talked about it in the past before. I don't know if I've actually showed it. Let me make sure it's on like a regular. I think this is fine. So let me share my screen.
I don't think I've even heard of that before. Auto
Yeah,
host.
so AutoHost is something that is entire screen. Let me share screen two. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep,
Yeah,
we can see.
I see it now.
Okay, so AutoHost is, and it's actually a good I'm in here because I need to manually approve somebody. But AutoHost is a thing that allows you to. It basically, this company works with Airbnb hosts, but you have to have a certain number of units. The minimum they said was 25. I was able to get them to
Oh,
come with us when we were at 20 because we were going to have that mansion coming on. And basically, when somebody books with us, it sends them a link that essentially it will not send the check-in instructions to them until we have them fill out this link. And in the link that they're filling out, they actually have to submit like their check-in instruct or submit their IDs, right? So instead of us saying, hey, send a picture of your ID, they got to submit their IDs. They've got to fill out some more information about the guest, and they put a credit card on file as if you were going to book with the hotel. Now we've gotten a lot of pushback on that, and we had to kind of retweak our messaging. But long story short, we don't accept anybody without this. But you got to get to scale before they'll allow you to use something like this. But we use this
Mhm.
for all the units that we manage, and it's another way to ward off parties. I can tell you that people that were thinking about it definitely want to cancel after they see this. They're like, I think I'm good.
Mhm.
And we've been able to protect certain other places with that. The critical piece, the whole reason that we got this is because we had that mansion, right? And it's a 10,000 square foot mansion where people want to throw parties. We've had a
Right.
couple. I could show you videos of different parties. But long story short, on that one, we're taking between $1,000 and $3,000 on a security deposit hold, and we're not afraid to take portions of that money if they destroy or mess up something. So this is something down the road that you can use. I think in the meantime, what AJ was talking about, which is sending messages and just getting it in writing, is a minimum, especially for somebody who's 18. Because I know when I was 18, if I was booking an Airbnb, if it was around back then, it probably wasn't too to just go and
Mhm.
Yeah, those are really good points, and I would also say just to add on top of what you kind of just walked us through and everything and talked about is you can't. I don't think you can really prevent like what guests are going to do. I mean, ultimately, they book their stay, and they can tell you that they're going to respect your property, do everything that's within the rules X, Y, and Z, but they can also go against it. But I think maybe sending them an extra message and maybe just adding an extra layer to make sure that they acknowledge the terms and stuff is just an extra like layer of like, okay, try to deter these guests from wanting to even attempt to try to ruin your property or go against the rules and things of that nature. So I really like that strategy.
I think we've all, if you've been in the game long enough, you've had a guest like that. And
Mhm.
honestly, that subtle reminder that you gave him probably kept, something bad from happening. So hey, I like it.
But you know what I found out is that you can ask Airbnb to take you can dispute that review. Yeah. Mhm.
That's funny. That is funny. No, yeah, and to your point, I think AJ was talking about before, moving more and more toward those midterm clients. I actually have a member on the team now that is focused on making those calls and messaging on Furnished Finder. They've been successful in securing one so far. They just started about a month ago on this piece, or maybe like 2 months ago now, and that one was a big one, 6,300 a month for a 6 bed 3 bath in Decatur, which was awesome. And now they're working on others. And this is how I know about the 2 bed 2 baths, because I see some of the messages going through. But there's some people looking for the 2 bed 2 baths, and they're willing to pay like in the range of 24 to 2600 a month, which is not the premium we're looking for. We're looking for like $3,000. But honestly, when you factor in cleaning fees and start taking out and backing out some of those items, it's not that bad. Desmond, welcome. How you doing, man?
Yo, what's up, man? I'm doing well. How are you?
Come on now, you got that, well-traveled glow. Like you just been hopping country to country, man.
Trying to, man. That's what it's all about. That's the whole reason we do this, right?
This is true.
To travel and to live, like we want.
And
And I've been trying to remind myself too to enjoy some of that now and enjoy the process and cherish the journey, right? And not just push push push, next thing, next thing, next thing, right? And try to really, you know, take advantage of what's going on now. So, yeah.
two things on that. One, I'm happy that you gave away the cleaning job to actually be able to travel. And
Key.
you're right. For the first, I would say, from 2016 up until like 18. So first like 2 to 2.5 years of my investing, it was just grind, 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 and I wasn't paying attention to the end goal of like, hey, you can keep putting away all this money, but what are you doing it for? You got to enjoy the journey along the way. Until I found that book, Profit First, right? Which has anybody read Profit First? What's on the line?
I haven't
Nice.
downloaded.
Hey, download is not read.
I know. I haven't read it yet. I know.
I actually just got it in the mail probably a couple of days ago, so I'm excited to read that. I've been hearing about it so much. Even just listening to this podcast, I listen to a lot of podcasts on YouTube, and then I was just like scrolling on the internet, and then I saw it advertised like one more time. I'm like, all right, this is about the fifth or sixth time I done heard about this book, so definitely excited to check it out.
Yeah, and that book has been revolutionary for me, only because like the systems, like the simple systems, have allowed me to start actually enjoying the journey along the way, right? Like for example, you can put as much money as you want into savings for the accounts, and hey, I'm just going to keep this on until I build X amount. But one of the first lessons in there, and the major lesson in there, is if your business cannot operate with 99% of income, meaning you take 1% for profit off the top, if it can't operate with 99% of income, it's probably not a good business, right? And then you try to increase that little by little. And so, long story short, what that taught me to do is create all these different bank accounts. And now I have like a fun account, which is like my profit account. And so when I'm taking trips, things of that nature, that's where I'm looking to. Somebody's like, hey, you want to go to dinner tonight? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let me take a look at my account. And if I have money in there, which is a percentage of all the funds that are coming in, I'm doing it, right? It's not even a question. If I want to travel, I have money in there, I'm doing it. If I don't, I need to do something more to build up that profit account, which is a percentage of what we're overall making, if that makes any sense. But I'd love to hear your take on it as a fresh set of eyes after you both get into it.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear too that I feel like you said that you kind of started to enjoy the journey more and like cherish it more after reading that book. Cause I feel like a lot of what I hear from it is like it revolutionized folks' business and like their like SOPs, right, and like the standards they have in their business, but not necessarily like their outlook on like life or like the journey necessarily. I feel like it's more geared toward I hear it at least as like business advice, and like it's very good like financially as well. Cool to hear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But what do you guys, well, actually, Desmond, we haven't come to you on this piece in a while. What you got going on, man? How's that midterm rental that you have going, and how are the other rentals?
Man, it's the arbitrage actually didn't go as I planned it, right? And that's kind of how things go. But that ended up not really kind of blowing up in my face in a way, but good lessons learned for sure. Definitely still interested and in a way want to be bullish on the arbitrage because I do think that I learned a really good lesson in like stick to what like stick to like your niche, right? Don't try to like I was trying to make money on the side. Like this property wasn't even put up on Airbnb. I had just taken the tenant that was staying at my property that was doing it was going really well here, and tried to stick that somewhere else, and it didn't end up going so well. Like it kind of I didn't have the lease structured in a way that made her liable for paying the last month, right? Because I hadn't taken a deposit from this person because we had kind of just it kind of like it started on Booking.com and then it kind of just gradually moved into like week to week, and then all of a sudden I'm like giving this person a 3-month lease. So long story short, it didn't work out necessarily how I wanted it to, and I'm still wrapping up the ends of that and like trying to fight to get some of my security deposit back. That's another thing. I didn't have a deposit from the tenant, so it gave them no incentive whatsoever, and I have no like Airbnb support. I have no Booking.com support. It gave them no incentive to like keep the place nice, right? Or like do anything that the lease said because I have no easy way to, charge those fees and whatnot. So I'm still trying to recover some of that money that I did end up losing. But again, expensive lessons. It was a good kind of first run though, and I'm glad that it did happen. But I do want to try to set up another one, maybe by the end of the year, who knows, maybe early into next year. But I've kind of put that on the back burner for now because it's September and it's going to be October soon. October 7th of last year is when I bought my first property, right? Which you so graciously helped me with. And I'm looking to hopefully get another one at some point. But just with the way things are, like with the way the rates are looking right now, it really has made me take a strong, look at other options. I have a homie up in Chicago who he's closing on a condo now. It's like 300 something thousand, but the rate that he got was like 7.5. And he's like, dude, you gotta understand, that's good compared to like what some of the rates are going for now, because they keep like pushing it like further and further, the hikes. So yeah, it's made me take a really good look at like what are some of the other options that might not just be going to the bank, trying to get a loan, and maybe putting the 10% down on a duplex, which is most likely all I would be able to afford. And even that would be like a nice chunk of money. Subject to, I've been hearing about more and more. I just feel like, and as the rates have gotten worse, I think it's naturally had come up more, right? Because you can kind of get a better deal if you can work out a subject to arrangement where you're taking over the payments, you've lock down this mortgage, or you're taking over this mortgage that might be locked down at like a 3.5, or like my mortgage at 3.75, right? So I don't know too much about that right now. I've just like kind of heard about it on podcasts, and like it's been like Pace Morby has come up a lot, right? I listen to Bigger Pockets like pretty religiously, especially the Rookie podcast, and they've talked about it a good amount. So I want to look into that more and see, is there an opportunity there, and what could that look like? So we'll see how that goes. My neighbor just told me he'd be interested in selling his fourplex, which is across the street. He owns like half the block. Literally, I might try to get him onto the podcast, because I feel like he would be a solid resource, even as like maybe like an interviewee, right? Because he has like this building next to me is 24 units. The one across the street's 4 units. The one down the street is 14. He said everything's for sale, which I was like, it was just crazy that he said that, and we were just having like a casual conversation, and he literally like offered to kind of like sell me his property. And I think it's cool kind of seeing the power of, just talking about real estate casually. So I've talked a lot, but that's kind of what I've been up to and what I've been thinking about and what I want to try to dive into next, hopefully before, and really definitely, I should say, before, let me speak it into existence, before the end of the year, and try to jump in, head first and see what happens.
Desmond, don't be surprised if I just pop up in your neighborhood tomorrow, just out of nowhere, to go and see a couple of these properties, because that's good deals, man, and those are opportunities. And I want to break this into 2 topics. One, definitely don't want to skip over that beginning piece, guys. Highly recommend, and I'm just now getting back into the long-term rental piece, so it's all coming back, and now I'm starting to do it a bit more. Even with that mid-term rental, starting to do it a bit more. If anybody's looking to book direct or off of a platform with you, and they're looking to do it for, really any length of time, but definitely anytime it's more than 28 days, you have to go through basically the leasing process. Like even for this midterm rental tenant who is an insurance claim, they're like, hey, we're going to be here for 6 months, all that stuff. It took an extra 3 days. We were a little bit nervous about losing them because they're still checking out other stuff. But we took them through the application process for a long-term rental. We ran their credit. The credit was like a 700 something, no evictions, background was clean. And then we rented to them, and we still took a security deposit of 1 month's rent. So we have 6,300 on deposit. We've got like a lease in place, and you've got to be careful with those, just so you can have some recourse, right? Like, hey, if you break this early, we get to take the security deposit, or here goes the rules. So highly recommend. And if you need help with that, anyone, hit me up. I've got plenty of lease templates I can send your way, and I can show you some of the systems I use, and we can dive into that later. But the other piece that you talked about is when you're looking at subject to and other methods, I love that stuff, right? But I think doing that in addition to a house hack once a year, if you're able, is ideal, right? When you look at doing these like creative deals, those are amazing because they allow you to put down less than 20%, right? If you're able to put down less than 20%, that is a win, right?
It's
Most of the
key.
investments I bought in Louisville, thankfully I was working in medical sales up in Boston making some money, but it was like 20%, 25% for some. I was like, okay, I'm just shelling out a lot of cash. Whereas when you're able to do a house hack per se, you're putting down 5% or less. That's a win right there. You don't have to get creative when you're doing that and you're acquiring more units. Or if you're able to do a subject to as your next property, I think that's ideal too. The only piece with that is it takes a little more time to find it, and you've got to kind of build a relationship with somebody, which it sounds like you have with this guy. He might be open to it, especially for one of those bigger units. But as interest rates go higher, I keep thinking back to that Warren Buffett quote, which is, I'm going to butcher this, but basically, when everybody's selling, that's when you want to, when everybody's buying, no, hold up, when everybody is fearful, that's when you want to buy. When everybody is, feeling
That's when you should
elated,
be
that's when you want to
nervous.
sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Something
And
like
so
Yeah.
that.
right
Yeah.
now, there's a lot of people that are fearful. And so literally, it's funny that you just mentioned that. One of the people that we manage for, I'm actually going to go see one of his properties here on Friday, and we're working out a deal where we may be able to take it over with something to that nature, not subject to, because that's somebody that's underwater, but basically give him his price, right? But have it to where I'm only paying the mortgage for the first 3 years, up to 3 years, and then I can refinance and pay it off the rest. So I'm going to get a locked in price right now and work out terms. I just need to see the property, make sure the rehab was done well, make sure my numbers work out, and may be able to get that. It's one that's out in East Point. It's like a 5 bedroom. And so there's going to be opportunities like that that pop up now as people are getting squeezed, and it's just, hey, who can hang on longer, right? Because we all know that over a long time period, give it 10 years, 5 years, whatever period you want to say, this is all going to go up. It's going to be more expensive than it was last year, more expensive than it was 10 years ago. But it's, hey, how can you not fall for, that mob mindset or mob mentality and continue to press forward and figure out ways to acquire more?
Yeah. That's a really good point. And I think the point you put about shelling out the cash is like a luxury you have if you're buying traditionally, at least, especially when the rates are high, right? So when you're looking to do a house hack, because I want, like, my goal is to get a fourplex, get as many units as possible, right, within reason, and scale at a reasonable rate. So, like, if I could get another 4 unit, that would be gold. But I'd be having to do that at 20%. So even in my building right now, that'd be $100,000 that I'd have to go put up, which is like a whole lot more cheese than like the 25 that I did have to put up, right? So that's kind of just where I'm at. I think I'd like settle for a duplex, and I like settle, right? I still think that's a good buy, like, and could be, but I think as the economy does change and like things just things change. I feel like you look, at least I'm looking at some of the creative options and just considering them, right? I don't want to like put my bets there. I like what you said about like maybe doing a subject to in addition to like a traditional house hack, right? Like that would be money, because that would be any way I can put down as little money as possible and like get a reasonable deal is what I'm trying to go to. So
That's
yeah, I like those ideas.
That's the key. Literally, when I'm looking at the house hack, yes, you want to get as many units as you can, but they've changed the rules. You used to still be able to get, at 5% down, multiple units. Now they're like, hey, you got to put down 10 or 20. So for me, my next house hack is going to be just what I'm doing here. 5% down for a single family with an in-law suite, maybe something like what AJ got, something like what Kanayo has, or something like what I got here. and keep making that work as a quote unquote duplex. Because cities are starting to loosen up the laws around ADUs, right? Because they understand there's, a shortage in housing. They're trying to expand that. And so they're starting to allow you
Mm.
to put more ADUs, things of that nature. And it does function as basically a 2 unit. And with bigger pockets out here preaching about house hacking, these things get snatched up quick. Like we were talking about earlier, like in Atlanta, they're not available. They are, they're just gone very quick. Like you got to be, hey, I know what I'm looking for. When I see it, I'm going after it. And so, yeah, man, yeah, I'm with
House
you. I'm not a
hacks
fan
are
of leasing.
house hacks are so dynamic and flexible, and I really like it. Not only just because I'm in one, I've been trying to get into a house hack for like some years now. So I was extremely happy to be able to find this one. But I think it's so cool because like being in a house hack, it kind of, I don't want to say shield your liability in a way, but like if you look at it from this perspective, say if I was to just buy a rental property, and for example, if it's not cash flowing, then it's not going to make sense for me. But if I'm in a house hack, I'm living here. This is my primary residence, and I'm also using the other unit, however that may be set up, to pad the expenses to be able to basically live either for free if it can work, or just I look at it as a discount, right? I may have a liability, but at the same time, we may always have to have a place to pay to live. So that's kind of how I look at it. Is like, if I had this property just as a standalone single family rental and is just not bringing in the numbers, then that looks bad on my portfolio. But at the same time, if on the other side of it, if I'm living in it and my mortgage is, for example, 2,500, but I'm only shelling out, $1,000. I think that's a win for me because ultimately I'm cutting into that, the expense that I have to shell out, and I'm just like, hey, this is building my equity. I have a potential for appreciation over the years, and I'm only paying $1,000 when my mortgage is 2,500. That was a hypothetical example, but that's just the perspective and the way that I look at house hacking.
Honestly, from putting together so many B&Bs, and especially seeing the mansion, people do pay more for that experience. And it could be something minor. Like with this one in Snellville, I can't wait to show you guys pictures, but I took an idea from like one of the things that we have in the mansion and also another client where we created kind of like a kids room, but it has like games all over the place, like wall games, like Connect Four on one wall. We got Pac-Man on the other wall. We got like Scrabble on the other wall. It's you got to see pictures to have it all come together. But long story short, it's gonna pop and it's going to be something that draws people in. And even something small like a pool table, right? Like I like playing pool. When we're booking a Airbnb for my family, and we're traveling for like Christmas things of that nature, I'm typically trying to find something that has something like that because it'll be fun, right? So yeah, if you're able to have something in there that differentiates it a little bit or makes it stand out a little bit, I think that's huge, and it can really kind of make a difference from a number standpoint. You said a waterfall? I would love to see how the waterfall comes into play. Please don't spend too. Let's connect on that. Don't spend too much on that. Fireplace is dope. Waterfall,
Man-made waterfall would be cool.
no. Hey, I like it. I like the fire pit idea. The waterfall, I'd love to see a concept first, but the fire pit sounds cool. I think that would pull a lot of people in. But guys, we are coming up on time. I appreciate you joining. In a couple weeks, not next week, but the following week, we're going to actually have Kwame, he's joined a couple times before, but we're going to be diving into his story. He's done a lot of flips out in the Philly and Ohio areas, and now he's working on a couple out here, and he's turning them around quickly. So we'll learn kind of a little bit about his processes, how he's finding the value add properties, and getting those flipped in less than a month and kind of go from there. Because that's another piece that we can start to dig into in the high interest rate environment. Homes that are not fixed up are sitting longer, and it's major opportunities. You just got to wrap your head around, hey, I got to put X amount of dollars into this in the hopes that I'm going to get X amount out at the end and just get, good around those numbers. But guys, I appreciate you joining. I hope you have an awesome Wednesday, and I will catch you a little bit later.